There are places in the city where the streetlights don't reach, where the concrete cracks like bone, and something ancient still breathes beneath the surface. Rain fell in sheets, turning alleys into arteries of grime and shadow. Street flickered and died one by one, leaving the city's forgotten veins in darkness. Somewhere beneath the rumble of traffic and distant sirens, something growled. Rhett Karsen moved like a ghost across the rooftop, edge hood pulled low, eyes scanning the sprawl of crumbling buildings below. He wasn't running, not yet. But his breathing was labored. Each inhale came with effort, as if holding something in he hadn't shifted in months, not since the last time, in the narrows that massacre haunted headlines. But he remembered the blood on his hands, the faces torn wide in fear, and the sound the sound he made when the beast took over. He clenched his jaw and stared at the glow of the full moon rising behind. Clouded glass towers, his bones ached. The curse was stirring. Rhett ducked through a broken skylight and landed softly inside an abandoned printing plant's safe house. Paper littered the floor like snow. A scratched mirror leaned against the wall, shattered down the middle. He caught his reflection in one jagged pane. His eyes flashed amber. Not yet. He stripped off his jacket and sat cross-legged in the center of a chalk-drawn ring. Silver shavings burned the air. The ritual might hold, just enough to get through the night. He needed control, but the thing that hunted him didn't care about rituals. A sound behind him, not a creak, not footsteps. It was a mimic, a whisper, perfectly matching his voice. You always run, but you're still just meat in the end. Rhett spun, claws already sliding from his fingertips. Nothing, just shadows, just the echo of his own curse. But in the reflection of the broken mirror, something moved behind him, a silhouette, blurred, humanoid but wrong, long-limbed, tilting its head too far to the side. No face, just static where a face should be. The urban reaper had found him. Rhett bolted. Glass shattered as he leapt through the opposite window, landed hard on the fire escape, 3 stories down, steel groaning beneath him. The city screamed back to life as alarms triggered motion sensors, car horns, sirens. The reaper fed on the city's fear. It woke the city to chase you with it. His boots hit wet pavement and he ran into the maze of alleys, moonlight licking the rooftops like silver flame. Behind him the reaper didn't run, it moved like fog and shadow, like a ripple in heat. He turned the corner and crashed into a wall. No, a mural. It was fresh, painted in blood, a sigil he hadn't seen since Eastern Europe, the mark of the 9-howled pact. His pack. This isn't random, Rhett muttered. It's bait. The reaper wanted him to remember. It was mimicking the past now, pulling at memory, hunting through history. He spun back, pressed to the wall, heartbeat hammering, breath ragged. Then, silence. Everything went dead. No city noise, no air, just the soft squelch of wet footprints. The urban reaper stepped into view, still blurred, but now wearing his own face. You lost control, it said in his voice. You always do. Rhett's body trembled. The shift wanted to come, but he held it barely. Not tonight, he whispered. You're not taking this city. His body surged, bones snapping, spine arching, teeth grinding down to points. The silver ring shattered beneath his feet, and with one final roar, Rhett surrendered to the beast. Muscle tore, fur burst through skin, claws lengthened. The werewolf stood tall, snarling through steam and blood. The city had 2 monsters now, and neither would back down. It doesn't knock, it doesn't crawl. The reaper just becomes what you fear most, and waits. The werewolf's howl sliced through the city like a blade through sinew. From miles away, people stopped in their tracks. Phones fell, windows slammed shut, the kind of scream no human should make, but every instinct understood. The reaper didn't flinch. It simply tilted its stolen head. The creature had no heartbeat, no scent, just a static pulse that disrupted street cameras and made rats flee into sewers. Where it walked, lights burned out and mirrors cracked inward. It had studied Rhett, watched him. In the weeks leading up to the blood moon, it didn't feed on flesh, it fed on identity, memory, guilt, and Rhett Karsen, at a feast in his past. Across the city, Rhett ran through sewer grates, leaping over dumpsters, claws grinding sparks off rusted railings. The beast in him was loose, but not feral, not tonight. It remembered how to fight. It remembered betrayal. 12 years ago, Rhett was part of Operation Hollow, a covert military unit sent to a Balkan village to contain a shapeshifter. They failed. Only Rhett survived, infected, cursed, and someone else got out. Someone who brought the glyphs back to the city. Someone who knew the Reaper's sigil. The smell of smoke pulled him to a crumbling subway station. Parkside 9, a transit ghost town since the fires 10 years ago. The underbelly of the city, and the perfect hunting ground. He padded down the steps, claws ticking on tile. Graffiti marked the walls, but these weren't tags, they were warnings. Runner faces reflection. Voice isn't mine. Kill what you were. He stopped. A soft sob echoed in the dark. Rhett. It was Delia Knox, the only civilian who'd seen his last transformation and lived. Urban cryptid researcher, ex-lover, the woman who helped him hide years ago when the beast first emerged, but she was dead. He buried her himself. Still, the voice came again. Rhett, please don't leave me again. He turned and saw her. Same face, Same blood-stained coat, same scar on her temple from the Narrows attack. You're not her. The figure flickered, glitching like bad reception. Then it dropped the disguise. The Reaper stood naked in truth, a patchwork of victims. One eye amber like Rhett's, one side of the jaw unformed. A ribcage exposed but not bleeding. It grinned with too many teeth. You keep pretending you're the monster, it said, but you've only ever been prey. The floor behind Rhett cracked open. Not metaphor, the floor shattered, revealing a trapdoor glyph etched in silver and tar. A summoning circle left unfinished. You're trying to pull me in, Rhett growled half wolf, half man. But I'm not your vessel. You already are, it hissed. The glyph activated. Red light flared beneath his feet. Runes burned into his chest. Pain like silver bullets through the soul. The Reaper lunged, but Rhett hurled himself off the ledge, breaking through the glyph's light barrier. He crashed hard into the rail tunnel below, ribs crunching. From above, the Reaper watched, then walked along the ceiling, upside down, head rotating like an owl's. It would follow, but Rhett was ready now. He limped into the dark. Ahead of him, deep in the subway's old junctions, lay something buried, something from the hollow howl days, a weapon, a seal, and a truth he was never meant to remember. His claws sparked against the wall as he whispered into the dark. If I go down tonight, you're coming with me. We all wear faces. Some hide the truth, others become it. But when the beast inside you wakes, don't wear the face, it wears you. The tunnel pulsed like a heartbeat, wet concrete, cracked steel, walls, sweating rust. Rhett dragged himself deeper into the artery of the city, shoulder bleeding, half-shifted and gasping. His claws left glowing trails along the war runes, ancient and automatic, pulsing with werewolf blood. The curse wasn't quiet anymore. It wanted out. He reached a junction. A maintenance door welded shut. Old military tags burned into the iron. Operation Hollow Howl. Do not unseal. He laughed bitterly, teeth sharpening with every chuckle. Already did that once, didn't I? With a roar, he tore the door from its hinges and stepped inside. Inside was the forgotten vault. Dust danced in dead air. Shelves of preserved glyphs, occult ordnance, iron boxes labeled with blood types and bite dates. This was the archive from the Balkan mission, buried when the city pretended monsters didn't exist. In the center, a sarcophagus made of ironwood and etched obsidian. Inside his own file, he opened it. Pages fluttered with dried blood and horror. Delia's name, his old pact's names, the death photos, the glyphs carved into their flesh before they turned, and a note: the urban reaper cannot be killed, it must be mirrored. Give it a reflection, or it takes yours. Mirrored, he whispered. You're trying to remember what it took from you. A voice, he spun. It wasn't the reaper. It was him, a fully human Rhett, standing across the room. Same face, same build, but clean, calm, wearing the old Hollow Howl uniform. What the hell? I'm who you were before the bite. The piece it carved out. The man Delia loved. The one who didn't howl when he dreamed. The air shifted. The walls flickered. He wasn't in the vault anymore. He was in the Narrows. Fire, screams, smoke. The night he transformed and couldn't stop. No, he whispered. You remember it now, don't you? The vision said. The glyph wasn't just a containment spell. It was a mirror seal. It forced the Reaper to reflect you. That's why it wears your face. That's why it wants you to break. I am broken. Not enough. A snarl ripped through the room. The illusion cracked. The Reaper emerged, twisted and coiled, half wearing Rhett's face, the other half crawling with mouths and eyes from past victims. It grinned. Your guilt is delicious. Rhett's body snapped backward, his spine realigning with a loud pop. Hair burst from his skin. Fangs split his gums. He screamed, not in pain, but in surrender. Fine, you want the beast. He fell to his knees, trembling as fur crawled across his arms and chest. You get all of it. The transformation consumed him. His muscles ballooned with sinew, legs bent backward, hands split into claws. A tail snapped free from his spine. His eyes burned golden, his fangs gleaming wet in the dark. This wasn't the half-man thing from before. This was the true werewolf, the apex. He lunged. The Reaper didn't flinch. It blurred sideways, became a war, became a scream, became Delia again. Don't make me kill you, the Reaper whispered in her voice. Rhett stopped mid-swipe. His claws trembled inches from her throat. The Reaper twisted the knife. You tore me apart. You don't even remember burying me. I screamed for hours before I died. Rhett's growl deepened. His heart pounded. But he didn't strike. You're not her, he snarled. The Reaper's face melted, rage overtaking its trickery. Then let's end it. They collided like freight trains. Claw met tendril. Fang met shifting skin. Blood sprayed against concrete walls as they rolled through the vault, destroying shelves, crashing into relics. Every blow lit up the glyphs on the floor, awakening the seal. Rhett sank his teeth into the Reaper's neck. It shrieked, not in pain, but in surprise. You're not supposed to be able to hurt me. I'm not just a man anymore, Rhett growled. I'm the sin that made you. He dragged the Reaper into the circle. Its limbs flailed, glitching through shapes. Soldier, child, wolf, man, woman, 1,000 faces. Screamed as seal activated silver light surging upward into a spiral cage of mirrored runes. The Reaper howled, It was being mirrored. It couldn't escape. You needed a reflection, Rhett said, his breath heaving. Well, here's mine. The glyphs. Locked. The light exploded outward. Then silence. Rhett collapsed, shifting back into his broken human form, shaking and scarred. The Reaper was gone, trapped in the mirror seal. For now, curses aren't born. They're made stitched together from broken promises, secrets swallowed, and blood never meant to spill. Rain swept across the ruined vault, washing the blood into sigils that had stopped glowing. The Reaper's form flickered once more inside the mirrored trap, its screams reduced to whispers mimicking names Rhett hadn't said aloud in years. Delia, Reyes, Voss, Hollow, Hull. The names of the dead, the names of the betrayed. Rhett pulled himself up, his skin raw and steaming, breath fogging the cold air that lingered in the sealed chamber. Bones still ached from the shift, and claw wounds bled in places that hadn't healed. But the beast inside was still not gone but watching, waiting. He approached the vault's final compartment, a sealed drawer marked in iron glyphs. He recognized the language, now not ancient, but constructed by his own unit. Hollow Howl had invented a binding code to contain not creatures, but guilt. Inside, he found a journal. Delia's the first page bore her shaky handwriting, smudged by soot and old tears. They told us it was a containment op, that the creature had infected the locals, but the locals weren't turning. Rhett was the last to hold the seal, and the Reaper, it wasn't hunting them, it was hunting us. He turned the pages faster. The curse wasn't passed by bite, it was passed by betrayal. Every time we left someone behind, it took another piece. It became them. The Reaper's power comes from memory, from identity, from abandonment. The last night, I saw Rhett lose control, but I stayed. I tried to hold the glyph open. I screamed for him, but he didn't see me. He buried me in the collapse, thinking I was already dead. But I wasn't. Not for hours. Rhett dropped the journal. Silence filled the vault, heavy, suffocating. The kind of silence that eats your insides first. The Reaper wasn't just mimicking Delia, it was Delia at least. The part of her twisted by abandonment, reborn in the Reaper's form. That's why it could speak so perfectly. That's why the pain hit like it did. He stepped closer to the mirrored prison. Inside, the urban Reaper writhed and gnashed, its form twitching, slipping between Delia's eyes and his own. You were never a monster, Rhett whispered. I was. The Reaper stared back, its mimicry stopping. One voice emerged, quiet, human. You left me. And then, silence. The mirror sealed fully. No image, no voice, just frost. The vault doors groaned shut behind him, locking the past where it belonged, if only for a little while. Rhett climbed back into the city's underworld, dragging the journal with him, the moonlight above splitting through a grate like the bars of a cell. The blood moon hovered, massive and pulsing red, a reminder. He walked to the edge of the rooftop and looked out over the city. Below, the aftermath was unfolding. Streets cracked from the seismic clash of his fight. Car alarms wailed in a chorus of metallic grief. Citizens whispered of beasts in the fog, of mirrored faces, of claws slashing through glass. And on one wall, spray painted in blood, the howl never left. Someone had seen it, someone had survived, and the myth was already spreading. In the distance, Rhett heard a familiar growl, but not his own. A second werewolf, not cursed, chosen. The Reaper's prison wasn't permanent. It had seeded something, in the shadows of alleyways, in the eyes of broken strangers, in the pulse of the city's darkest corners. Echoes remained, and so did the pact. The nine-howled sigil hadn't been destroyed, only paused. He turned away from the edge, pulled the journal close, and whispered Delia's name. I won't leave anyone behind again. But above, the blood moon didn't fade. It brightened. You can bury guilt. You can bind it in mirrors and seal it behind iron. But vengeance doesn't sleep. It howls. The Reaper was gone. But something else had taken root. It began with the siren's short bursts of citywide alerts that no one could trace. Then came the lights, blocks of the city blinking out one by one, like eyelids shuttering during a nightmare, and the shadows started to move. Rhett stood at the edge of Building 44, blood still drying beneath his fingernails. The journal tucked inside his jacket. The air smelled of metal, smoke, and static like a thunderstorm being born underground. The seal had worked. The urban Reaper was locked away, for now, but the blood moon hadn't faded. It pulsed brighter. A second howl ripped across the skyline, higher pitched, angrier, not Rhett's, not beast, something mimicking it, mocking it. He bolted down the stairwell, boots pounding steel, claws half-drawn. The city wasn't just reacting, it was remembering, and somewhere in that memory, something else was waking up. Midtown. Substation corridor beneath the financial district. A body twitched in the dark. No name, homeless, forgotten. The kind of person the city ignored, but he had been there when the fight broke out above the vault. He had seen the Reaper in its raw form, and more importantly, he had heard Rhett's howl. Now he was transforming, but it wasn't like Rhett's change. It was jagged, incomplete, like a virus copying corrupted code. His bones cracked the wrong where his eyes turned completely black, hair sprouted in asymmetrical patches, his mouth split wide, tearing his cheeks into a gaping snarl, and through his shattered throat, he echoed Rhett's voice. "You left me." The urban reaper was bleeding into others. It wasn't dead, it was duplicating, back on the street. Chaos was catching up. A young woman, in a gas station, saw a figure walk past the pumps, a perfect copy of her late brother lost in a factory fire years ago. When she called his name, he turned and opened his mouth, and screamed in every voice she'd ever feared. In the stairwell of an abandoned courthouse, a child ran up 10 flights and down 11. And in a subway tunnel 2 miles from Rhett's vault, a werewolf rose out of a pool of static reflection. But its eyes weren't gold. They were white, blank, and hungry. Rhett found the second echo just before it reached Midtown. It moved like the Reaper, but was less refined, wild, twitching, dripping static from its fingertips. A failed copy, maybe, but still deadly. He stood between it and the street, claws fully drawn, breath fogging in the chill. "You're not the Reaper." It tilted its head, then shifted into Delia, but wrong, melting. Mouth too wide, eyes too empty. "Not her," he snarled. "You're just a fragment." The thing screeched and lunged. Rhett met it midair. Claws clashed, blood sprayed. Cars below swerved and screamed. Streetlights shattered. They crashed into the rooftop of a deli, tumbling through a ventilation shaft and smashing into the kitchen below. Fryers exploded. Gas hissed. The echo thing scrambled up the wall like a spider, rotating its limbs backward, growling in Rhett's voice. "I'm what's left of you," Rhett leaped, tackled it through the walk-in freezer, pinning it against the frosted steel wall. "No, you're what I buried." His claws dug in deep. He carved a sigil straight into its chest. The 9-howled glyph, the echo, twitched violently. Static bled from its mouth. Its flesh rippled, losing shape. Then it collapsed into smoke, leaving behind only a wet outline and the smell of burned hair. Above, the moon turned crimson-orange, flaring like a dying sun. More echoes would come. The Reaper hadn't been exorcised, just fragmented. Every person who'd witnessed its form, heard its voice, or felt its presence, now carried a piece of it. Rhett stumbled out of the alley, clutching his side, staring up at the sky. The beast inside him stirred again, not from hunger, but from fury. "It's not over." The glyph on his arm, a mark from hollow howl, began to glow again. It wasn't just a seal, it was a beacon. The final phase of the curse had begun, and the blood moon wasn't just watching anymore. It was calling something bigger. Monsters don't just haunt cities, they shape them, bury their claws into the stone, and sometimes they wait for the blood moon to rise again just to finish the hunt they started. The city's heartbeat had changed. It no longer pulsed with traffic and neon, it pulsed with fear. Above, the blood moon loomed full and ripe, its light no longer soft, but sharp, cutting through rooftops like a blade. It cast no warmth, only warning, and below it, Rhett Karsen ran, through alleys, across rooftops, into the bones of the city, back to the place he swore he'd never return, back to the circle, buried beneath the old Ward 6 courthouse. Surrounded by rusted chains and soot-blackened murals, lay the original summoning circle Hollow Howl had used a decade ago, the one that bound the Reaper, the one that failed. Rhett stood at its edge, now limping, panting, shirt torn, glyph glowing along his ribcage, the journal in one hand, a broken piece of silver rebar in the other. "This is where you were born," he whispered. The ground was already stirring. Cracks formed in the stone. Red light flickered beneath the cracks like veins exposed beneath flayed skin. A voice filled the space, not from the Reaper's mouth, but from everywhere at once. "You finally came home." Rhett didn't flinch. He stepped into the circle. "I came to end it." From the shadows emerged the true urban Reaper. No mimicry now, no faces stolen. Its real form was layered, shifting constantly. Like a body trying to remember how to be human, it moved like a cloak in water, every edge alive, eyes blinking, open and shut across its skin. Its voice echoed in fragments, sometimes male, sometimes female, sometimes both. "You still think you're the cursed one," it said, "but you were always the key." "Because I survived," Rhett growled. "Because you left them." The Reaper lunged. Rhett met it with a roar that cracked the stone beneath his feet. They collided in the center of the circle, claws against tendrils, teeth against shifting form. The fight wasn't graceful, it was war. Dirty, animalistic, primal. Rhett slammed the Reaper into the wall, but it rippled and reformed behind him. It drove a shadow tendril through his shoulder. He howled, not just from pain, but from rage, from memory. "You're every sin I buried," he snarled, "but I'm still standing." The glyph on his ribcage burned hot. The journal flared open beside him, pages tearing free and swirling through the air. The 9-howled seal completed itself in the dust. Rhett tore off the last page and pressed it to his own chest. "No more cages." The Reaper recoiled. "What are you doing? Binding you to me? That's suicide. That's justice." The ritual activated. Red spirals rose from the ground. Sigils ignited in midair. Mirrors cracked inward. And the Reaper screaming was dragged into Rhett. The glyph burned across his spine, chest, skull. His body convulsed. His bones shattered again. But this time, he didn't resist. He embraced the monster. A new form rose from the circle's heart, taller, broader, cloaked in both fur and shadow. Not just werewolf, not just reaper, something new, a hybrid. Golden eyes burned beneath a crown of glowing glyphs, claws like obsidian, skin alive with shifting scars. This new creature walked calmly out of the ruin, eyes fixed on the rising moon, and howled. The sound shattered windows across 4 boroughs. Every echo curse in the city, every infected mimic, every whisper thing birthed from the Reaper froze, then collapsed. The signal had changed. The Reaper was no longer broadcasting, because it had merged with its mirror. And now, Rhett was both hunter and hunted. Hours later, the fires were out. The power grid stuttered back on. Emergency crews worked through ruins, muttering about gas leaks, transformer explosions, terror attacks. No one spoke of the howls, but they felt them, in their bones, in their sleep. And in one alley, someone found a single claw mark etched into the concrete. It was glowing, not red, not white, but silver. Atop the spire of the old cathedral, Rhett stood beneath the fading moon. His form had returned to human, but something lingered in his shadow. A ripple, a second outline. He looked down at the city. It didn't thank him. It didn't know, but it was quiet. For now, he opened Delia's journal, tore the last page, and set it aflame, then turned and walked into the mist. Some monsters die in fire, some vanish with the light, but the ones we bury in silence, they echo, in dreams, in alleyways, in the sound the wind makes when it forgets which way to blow. The moon was gone, the sky, dull gray, the city, limping. News. Reports flooded the morning cycle with explanations that meant nothing: gas line ruptures, industrial accidents, flash mobs, and digital interference. No one said monster, but more than a few said ghost, and every one of them felt it. The change, something had shifted, down below, in the hollow howl vault. The sigils were still burning faintly in the dark. The Reaper's mirror remained intact, but empty, just reflecting dust, broken chains, and shadows that moved on their own. A silver claw mark had been scratched across the glyph's heart, like someone had signed the story's ending. Rhett Karsen was gone, not missing, not wanted, just absent. No trace, no blood, no body, only rumors. A man said he saw someone climb out of a manhole wearing wolf eyes and a soldier's jacket. A boy claimed a figure watched him from the rooftops, then vanished when he blinked. A subway worker swore the third rail hummed with howling. But the people who truly knew, they stayed quiet, because some names when spoken bring things back. And Rhett Karsen had earned his silence. Weeks later, an officer walked the ruins of Building 44, found a small scrap of paper stuck between bricks. It was torn from a journal, scorched at the edges, barely legible. But one line was clear: he didn't become the monster, he made it obey. The officer pocketed it, and never slept right again. On the eastern edge of the city, where the river meets the train yard, a new mural had appeared, a werewolf in silhouette, claw to the moon. But behind it, a second shape, almost human, watching. No one saw the artist, but below the painting, scratched in rusted red, the hunt never ends. Legends don't need eyes to see you, they don't need names to find you, and when the moon is full, they don't knock, they howl. If you listen close on the right kind of night, when the wind turns sharp and the air smells like lightning, you'll hear it. A growl, low, slow, and hungry, the kind that reminds you the city was never yours, it just let you pretend. For a while, like, share, and subscribe, because next time, the howl may come for your street, and for those who hunger for more. Step deeper into the shadows with our Ultimate Werewolf Horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them. And trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.